Well, very proud. Any chance I get to talk about golf and the history of amateur golf, and particularly Dad, gives me a chance to pick over the memories again.
I think it's a great idea, and thanks to County Sligo Golf Club for doing it. It goes back to about 2010 when Jerry McManus's brother Frank, the late Frank, and myself came down, and I had some trophies that I thought would be better off in County Sligo Golf Club rather than around my house. And we met Jerry, and fair play to Jerry, over a period of a year, whatever, he decided to dedicate a room, and I wasn't expecting that at all, and I'm absolutely delighted.
He was born in 1910. He was born in the hotel, which is just across from the golf club, which was owned by his mother and father. At that time, the first tee was just down there in the corner where the course was in its original layout. So it was only across the road to get into the golf course. Mostly golfers that were in the hotel. His father was a very good golfer. He played off one, and he encouraged the lads to Harry, Aubrey and Dad to play. I think they were kicked out to get out of the way and go on the golf course. And the young lads had a 3 holes further over and they used to play on, but he showed an ability that opened a door for him to be taken in by the members and absorbed and encouraged. His dad used to give him half a crown to buy himself a lemonade and a half one for the 2 gentlemen who were good enough to play with him. Well, he was initially Willie Nolan was the professional here, and he moved on. I think he went to Dublin. I can't remember what club. And then John McLeod came, and he must have been here in the 20s and did a lot of work with Dad. In fact, I have a club, a 6-iron that John McLeod made for him. I think he was having difficulties with the 6-iron and wasn't getting on very well with it, but I still have that club. Well, he played in his first West he was 14. He was 18 when he won his first West of Ireland in 1928, and he beat Bertie Briscoe in the final. After that, he played in the national championships insofar as with West and the South. In 1936, when he was 26, at that stage he was working in Ballina, and a telegram came to the hotel. Thought nothing of it, stuck it up in the bar there behind the bottle or whatever. The local patrons started to drift in, and a few more arrived in, and eventually somebody said, "Any news?" No news. "Any news about Cecil?" "No, he's in Ballina." "Well, any news about him being on the World Cup team?" "No," said his dad, "but there's a telegram up there." He rang Dad in Ballina. He was in the Imperial, and Dad said, "Open it," and he was thrilled to be selected, and he drove back from Ballina to see the telegram, to actually believe it was true. Everybody seemed to know before he did. Then in 1938, he played on the World Cup team that won the World Cup for the first time in St Andrews.
I found a photograph of my father putting on the 18th green in St Andrews, and they were putting out to win for the first time. And the photograph shows a lot of people around the 18th green in St Andrews, and underneath it says the crowd of 15,000 people, which is incredible when you think of amateur golf today.
And he actually held the putt on the 18th against Ray Billows that sealed the cup staying in the UK, which was a great excitement. I think it meant a lot to his parents, and certainly the club were very supportive of him, and everybody in the village was, as such, kind of helped put Ross's Point out there. We lived in Malna, and we'd come over on a Saturday and he'd play golf here. We'd spend more time hanging around the putting green, waiting for a lemonade, to hurry up and go home. But at that age, we weren't really aware. It was probably when I was 17, 18 that I was really aware of the impact that he had, and how much golf had done for him in a way. He had lots of friends and plenty of travel, and really got an awful lot of pleasure out of it.
I'd be home from Castleknock College on my holidays at Easter, and I think his regular caddy wasn't available, and I pulled a trolley round for him. And the one that I do remember is playing the fifth. His second shot ended up right and short of the green, and he said, "Give me a sand wedge." And I handed him a sand wedge, and I said, "You'll hold this," and he did. That's the one I do remember. And he went on to win that match. He won that match. So that's in the memory.
You kind of felt when you were watching as his daughter that everybody was out to beat him, which they were, of course. And some of his best matches were with Joe Carr. They had many a tussle over the years, and they got a great lot of pleasure out of those matches.
There was great rivalry on the golf course, but great friendship outside that. I mean, the family stayed with the Carr family in Sutton regularly, as did Joe stay in our house in Cleaver.
I remember in 1951, I was 11, and he was playing in the Irish Close in Portmarnock. And Mum, Dad, Tom and I were staying with Carr, Joe and Dora Carr in Hoath Road. And I went to the course every day, walked 36 holes a day. And one of his matches, he beat John Glover on the 8th tie hole. It was nearly dark. However, he got through that, and the final was on a Friday, a 36-hole final. And we all went, he was 2 down after 18 holes. We all went back to Carr's for lunch. And being a Friday, everyone got fish. Una had fish for everybody, but Dad got a steak. And it turned his game around anyway. He made up the deficit and beat Joe on the 16th, 17th, it was always blamed on the steak. They were playing, probably a final, and Joe hustles up onto the first tee. Dad's there already, and Dad said to him, "Have you got everything?" And he said, I have. So off they go, play the first, and as you know, if you play in Ross's Point, the caddies go from the first green way up the second fairway, and the players go back to the tee, and they get back to the tee, and Joe said, "Have you a tee?" "No, I asked you had you everything," and he made it off the grass. I have heard the story the other way around, but if you're playing Ross's Point, you know the caddy goes up the right of the first second. The thing about amateur golf then, it got all the media, all the correspondents, sports correspondents attended all the championships. There was really no coverage of professional golf. And on Easter Monday morning at breakfast in our house, somebody would be sent down to get all the papers to see what each of the correspondents had written. It took pages, but at that time it was amateur golf was the story.
He was a quiet and reserved man, but he had a great sense of humour and a sense of play, some like tricks and things like that. When the people in the house, he was always up to something. And although he seemed quiet to most people, when he was with his friends, he was actually very humorous and outspoken. Especially in the back bar here in County Sligo Golf Club, When you get him in there with Frankie Kelly and a few others, he was good fun.
Well, the back bar was a do pot anyway, but they had great fun. But at home, during the West, whoever was staying, Joe or Mr. Gale, Willie Gale and Dan Ryan, the stories and the laughs and the fun were hilarious. We had great fun. Great fun.
My mum was a very soft, gentle person, humorous, and she had a difficult life from when I was about 11 and we lived in Ballina. I saw her struggling to walk down the landing at home, and I asked her about it, and she said it's because of my tight skirt. That's the way she put it. But it was the beginning of multiple sclerosis, so she had to bear with that, you know. And my father was away a lot, but he looked after her, I thought, very, very well. And the one I should mention that she was a good golfer herself. She was a golfer herself, and the story goes that when they got married, she announced she was going to retire from golf because one golfer in the family was enough.
In earlier years, she would go with them as often as she could, but latterly, even she went to some events with him, even though she was in a wheelchair, when he was captain or manager of the Irish teams or whatever. But I moved back from Dublin to Sligo, so to a certain extent I was here, which was a bit of a backup. And then Aubrey and I were around some when he was president and that kind of thing. There was backup, but he was great. And they had great fun together. And they loved the game of cards and good fun, and they had great friends.
My father's name was Cecil, obviously. My mother's name was Cecil, and so they were both called Cecil. So the locals, especially around the golf club, decided it was Big Cecil and Little Cecil.